Hi, in this presentation we'll be going over active reports. My name is Kevin Richardson. I work for FASTech, which is a Mastercam reseller here in Ohio, Eastern Kentucky. What we'll wind up doing is making sure people understand exactly on what kind of reports they're looking for. Many times what a programmer in CNC want are something that is very simple to use and easy to read out in the shop, and also customizable. So let's go ahead and get started and show you exactly where to find these and how we can change them as well. When we hit the settings and go into configuration, and what I want you to kind of pay attention to is when you get down to here, you'll see the toolpath, and in the setup sheet program you can also go ahead and drop that down and make it to a .set active report or other. I'm going to go ahead and set it to .set for right now, just so that way you can see the difference on some of the reporting that comes out with Mastercam. So we'll leave this at .set. Once I'm done with that, I'll just go ahead and hit the check mark and just tell it that that's what I want for my session. So we have some operations over in the operation manager, quite a few on this one here, and I did this on obviously intentionally for this purpose of the video. And I'll be doing op1. So we have about 7 operations in op1, and I can simply right click over in the graphics area and go ahead and left click on a setup sheet. As I do that, it'll pull up my code expert or whatever editor that I'm using, and it'll simply go ahead and run through the NCI and give me all the information for that .set. Now this is very detailed of things in that need to be done, and quite a bit of people used to use these years and years ago. But I think active reports can be customizable much faster and quicker. You just have to know some basic rules. So, but there again, this gives you out a lot of different information, and this also can be customizable as well. Now I'll go ahead and exit out of here and close that and give you another look. If we right click into the graphics menu and simply just get a tool list, I can get the tool list and it'll be something much smaller, much more detailed, or not much detailed, much smaller and concise. For example, in this case here, I'm just going by the number, what the tool name is, the diameter, radial assembly. So kind of the basic functions that would a CNC operator would need to go ahead and do to the machine to set up for this machine. But in this case, it doesn't give a lot of information that maybe he wants and how deep he's going as well. So we're going to go ahead and get back into the active setup report. Now with the active setup report, where it's located, configuration, and it is typically defaulted to active reports when you install Mastercam. So you should be under the active reports and just make sure that's selected when we get through this video. The other thing is knowing what reports we're going to be using. Now CNC software, when you install the Mastercam, automatically gives you a few samples, and we can see them into the templates right here on the right hand side. You'll have a mill, mill 2, and of course MT, router, wire, lathe. These are good to start with. You don't have to be an expert to go ahead and do the active reports. You just need to know how to manipulate them, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and show you some steps around on how to do that. So I want to let you know that we're going to be going ahead and setting with the mill, regular mill, and selecting OK. The other thing that I like to go ahead and do is I really don't like to go ahead and go over to the right hand side or left hand side in my operation manager and go ahead and click on the setup reports. To me, I just want to go ahead and be one click deal, a little bit faster. So I'll give you a little tip that I like to use. If you go to settings and if you go under customize, what will happen is I want to go ahead and do a right click drop down for myself. So I just go to the content menu, and that's on my right click menu right here. I'm simply going to go ahead and drop down, find utilities, so you can scroll down with the bar, find utilities, and you'll see it create setup. Now when you left click on it, you can simply add that to the sheet, and it goes right over here. You also notice that I have a separator in between there as well. You can add separators at any time, so you can just simply left click, right click, and you can insert a separator at any time. So sometimes I'll keep that in there just in case I want to go ahead and add something later, and I'll apply that and select OK. If you want to, you can always save your toolbar to whatever it is. In this case it's design mode, or change it to whatever name you want. So this will be saved under design. So now what will happen in the future, as we right click, we can go ahead and just do a create a setup sheet right from the right click drop down. Now let's take a look at why some people want to change the setup sheet. Well, in active reports, there again we've got our stock that's up here, and I made it translucent so you can see the part that's in the back. Otherwise I could just go ahead and click the button and make it solid. And so people want to find out where their 00's at, where their tools are located, what style of cutting they're going to be doing. So there's many different ways, and you almost can't have one setup sheet to fit all. So this is the reason why I'm making this video, to go ahead and give you some power to be flexible of what you want, and of course your CNC operator. So what we'll wind up doing is when I right click and make it create a setup sheet, you'll notice that it goes ahead and goes into the active reports and asks a few things here with the general information. Well, the first thing we'll go ahead and notice is I've got a couple things filled in already. And of course I'll show you how I did that here in just a second. What I want to concentrate on is right down here where it does tell me that this is my mill, and I'm going to go ahead and hit F2, because if you hit F2 you can reassign it to anyone you want. Now I'm going to go ahead and go right to the mill. Double click on it. Now you'll see that I have set up mill right here. I'll leave everything else defaulted for right now and just go ahead and hit the green check mark. Now it takes a little bit longer when it goes ahead and sets this up, but you'll notice that it's going to go ahead and grab some captures on the page, each operation as well, and of course look at any information that you have with this setup report with the tooling, feeds and speeds, and etc. Okay, so Initializing Report Viewer comes up, and you'll notice that we have a logo up on top. It tells us our setup sheet, what mill we're using, and any information that we put into the general information box. The pictures here, you can also go ahead and look at the contents, and you can see that the stock comes on here. There's your stock. Any operations come on here, which is your contour, facing, and of course you can keep going down. Now one of the problems that would wind up being on this one is it seems like it's a waste of paper, and it can be, and that's why that we want to go ahead and maybe customize something a little bit more to your liking. Now if you're using a paperless system, some people don't mind this. They'll actually go ahead and just go to the file, save as, and they'll put it into a PDF file or something and put it on the network so somebody can grab it. They still may customize things here, but they may not worry about printing this out and wasting so much paper. However, most of us like to see things condensed, a little bit easier in one source solution. So let me go ahead and show you another different way to do that. I'm going to go ahead and actually just exit out of here to the top. We still have the same operations selected, but let's give you a little bit different look. When I right click on this, I'll do a setup sheet. And this time what I'll do is left click one time on here. It says press 2 to reassign, so hit F2. Well, let's do mill 2. Once you double click on mill 2, there again nothing up here changed. We can simply go ahead and hit the green checkbox. Since the report is different and the active reports and it's renamed differently, we're going to get a different look. Although it looks the same in the beginning with the Mastercam visual of setup, you'll notice that the operations are all labeled out, and it has a contour, facing, surfacing, all the 7 that I just did. The min and max of how far that tool is going from my clearance all the way to my depth. This is also good too when you're doing 3D imaging. And of course your cycle time. Now to me this is crucial. If you're a manager or a programmer, you always want to make sure that what cycle time is on each operation. Just gives you a good indication that you didn't fat finger a number in way too slow. Rather than going 50 inches a minute, you put 5, you'll see a big difference. You'll also notice that the tools are a lot easier and cleaner to see as well. Now we have some issues here that we'll go ahead and fix, and I'll show you how to do that kind of on each other as in the verbiage. But other than that, it's a very detailed information, much more condensed than the other one. You also notice that we don't have a big stock size that shows us what we need. So there's many different ways to go ahead and start a report. So now that we know that where to grab it from, where the defaults need to be, let's go into active reports and find out how we can do some customization. First of all, what I'll wind up doing is when you go ahead and there again, I'll right click and create a setup sheet. You'll notice that right in here I have a project, customer, programmer, drawing, and etc. And these are all defaulted with Mastercam. Now, one of the things I told you that I like to go ahead and do is make a drop down. You can always go to the help menu if you need to go ahead and get some additional help instructions. That's always a great way to go ahead and kind of grab the help menu and find out what more information you need, whether it be capture image, whether it be field definitions, view operations, but these are great ways to get some additional help. In the meantime, let me go ahead and show you what I wind up doing. Now the projects typically, obviously would be a name. I just put something in there so you can see it. Typically as a programmer, they're already past due, so I'm just putting already past due. So how do I get these selections in there? Well, it's pretty simple. All you want to do is just grab a programmer. In this case, I'll grab the programmer box. And currently I have two selections, which is John Doe and myself. Now maybe I want to go ahead and put Sam in here. And when I put Sam in here, will that be part of the drop down? Not yet. What will happen is if I put Sam in here and I select OK and it goes through at one time with the setup sheet, then it will be in my drop down. But if I simply go ahead and just try to add Sam to this, you can't unless you go ahead and save it first. So many people wonder where the right click is or how can you insert that name. It'll be inserted once you're done and you select OK. It'll be in your next go around. And now go ahead and just put Sam in there just so you guys can see that's going to be applied. The next thing you'll notice is we have some things in here and you may not need them this way. For example, note 1, 2, and 3. I prefer to go ahead and have my operators know exactly where I'm setting up on. I might have a few things in here, left side apart, top apart, things of that nature, and I put those in there. Now I might go ahead and change this over here and just put x equals, and then I hit enter, and it goes off. And it'll stay that way unless I went ahead and overwrote all my templates. So there you go, x, y, and z equals. This way, as I go through them, it's easy for me to go ahead and include that onto the setup sheet. So concentrate that we're using mil2 here, and as soon as I go ahead and select OK, we want to see if all that came on there. In other words, the information from note 1, 2, and 3. There again, generating the report. Just takes a few seconds. Report viewer comes up, and you notice that it stopped at time. So any of that X, Y, and Z I didn't place in there. So what we want to go ahead and do is add this to this sheet and start customizing some of the things we want to do in here. So let's go ahead and get started with that. The first thing that you want to go ahead and make sure you do, and I'll move this out of the way so I can go ahead and exit out of that, is to know where the files are located and back them up. When you first do this, it's always a good idea to save your files, back them up or do whatever, just in case you start to go ahead and get a little bit too aggressive and start to go ahead and get conflicts when your reports come out. So right here is your shared X8, and I do want to let you know for the people that have Mastercam for SolidWorks, you absolutely can do this the same. Your reports will be the same. There's your configuration. There is your active reports right there. And so the only that's going to be differences is the location of your templates, and I'm going to show you where both of those are at. So whether you're a Mastercam standalone user, Mastercam for SolidWorks, you can do both the same way. If I go into the shared documents, up at the top, you'll see that's public, shared MCAM X8. Under common and under reports, SST is where all your reports reside. If you're a Mastercam for SolidWorks user, you'll just simply go under Shared MCAM for SolidWorks. In this case, I'm using X8, Common, Reports, SST, and you get the same. So now you know where the reports reside to. How do you get the active report? You'll notice that I have a shortcut that I place in here. So it's always easy for me to grab my active reports so I don't have to go through a series. So when I go ahead and go to Programs, I'm going to go ahead and start with Mastercam standalone version, Mastercam X8, and I'll also go ahead and go into Utilities. Now when I'm in Utilities, you'll see where I can actually click on Active Report Designer. If you right click on it and simply just tell it to send to desktop, that's a good indication that you can go ahead and grab it in the future very quickly. In this case, since I already have it done, I'll just left click on the Active Reports viewer. Now that the Active Report Designer is open, we're going to go ahead and open up a file. In this case, File, Open. You'll notice that I'm actually going to Publics, making sure that I'm going to Shared because I have both systems. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Shared. I'll also notice that I'm going to Common, and I'll go to Reports. I'll go ahead and grab the SST folder, and you'll also notice that you have some minus signs in front of the setup sheet, along with some that don't. The reason for this is because the ones that do not have any of the minus sign in front of the setup are your main files. The other ones that have the minus in front of it are typically set up as sub reports. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the mill 2. The reason for that is because this one was the one that gave me the more desired look that I was looking for. It was the one that, as we went ahead and did the active setup report, that it had the tools kind of identified closer together, and it didn't have much of a stock setup as well. So I think this is going to be the closest one I want to look for. So I'm simply going to double click on that, and it opens up into my viewer. Now we'll go over a few things in that on how this is arranged, so that way this is the whole part of customizing to what you want. The first thing I'll wind up doing is I've come through here, I'll notice that I can left click down here and maybe just open it up a little bit, and what that is just that drop down arrow. You'll see two arrows, just dropping it down. Notice that we're using a setup page right down through here. The one thing I didn't like on when we did the Mill 2 setup report is it didn't give me my notes that I wanted to for my X, Y, and Z. And also the picture was fairly big. Other than that, it wasn't too bad. So what I can wind up doing is kind of changing some of those things very quickly. Also the picture and the setup report itself, I want to change some of those. So I'll start off by doing something very simple as just changing a picture. With changing a picture, what I can wind up doing is selecting the box where the Mastercam is. I'm going to go ahead and grab to the right area and just drag that out so I can see a little bit more of what the image I'm looking for, which is right through here. Now, a lot of times people will go ahead and put a customer logo or a company logo, things of that nature, and that's great. I'm just going to go ahead and put a regular picture. You can use a bitmap, JPG, and a few other ones as well. I'm going to grab that into my folder, and of course you can always grab it to where your picture is located at. And I'm going to call it 5-axis. Once I double click on that, you'll see that a picture I'll go ahead and be placed into that area. Now I want to resize this as well, and I don't have much room through here on the bottom, and of course I want to move the setup sheet as well. So the first thing I'm going to wind up doing is just left clicking onto the box, which is right here, and you'll have an indication that I am clicking on that box by the 4 arrows, and I pull down. So I'm just kind of designing this exactly what it says. I'm just designing this a little bit differently. I'm going to go ahead and left click on the MCX short and drag that down as well. Gives me a little bit more room when I'm looking for. Now, in order to go ahead and grab a few things at one time, I can actually just go ahead and left click, holding down the mouse, reaching over, letting go, and actually dragging it down all at one time. Something like this. And let that go as well. So of course, if I want my picture to be bigger, I can absolutely do that just by going ahead and resizing that as well. Okay, so you can go ahead and grab what you want. And of course, the setup sheet, I'll go ahead and slide over. Now you'll also see some purple lines, and the purple lines are snaps. They're really great to go ahead and keep things into a nice flow and organizing them into where they're set up fairly easily. The machine name I might pull up now a little bit. Pull that up here. And of course, leave a little bit of room here for the general information. The other thing that I want to do is, since I want to add a little bit more to here, which would be the notes, I do want to go ahead and move that up a little bit. Left click and just move that up. And if you ever go ahead and don't grab everything, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and grab the undo from up at the top, and I'll just do another regrab here. So simply just click over, make sure you grab everything. You see everything's highlighted, and then you can just move it right up. So no problems. Left click when you're done, and you'll see that I have them organized. The next thing I want to go ahead and do is maybe I want to see what that looks like so far. Without going back into Mastercam and repopulating this, we can simply go ahead and hit the File, Preview button, and this will give me a preview of what I've changed so far. So it's kind of a handy little tool. We shortened up the box, we went ahead and we put a picture in there, and of course the next thing we'll do is we'll kind of maybe change some verbiage and add some notes in here as well. I'll go ahead and select the X and get started again with the setup report. When I left click on the setup report, you'll notice that right down here towards the bottom there's a text, and I can go ahead and type my text in, and I might call this one test active. Once I place that in there, left click over, you'll see that it'll change that text. I also may want to go ahead and I'll left click on it and change the way the font is. And you can simply do this by left clicking. You'll see the font right here. Just go ahead and grab over the browse with the three dots. Left click onto that and maybe change it to another format. And of course you can scroll down to fit one that suits your needs and select OK. The other thing I might want to go ahead and do is change the color of the text, which in this case we call a four-color. Simply left click down, maybe highlight that into a different color, and left click to select OK. So now we put a picture in here. We went ahead and changed a little bit of the setup. The machine is going to remain the same for right now. It's going to grab whatever machine we're using for our machine definition. But I do want to add a few things into here. And as I pull this down a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and do some copy and pasting. Now, if you're not familiar with XML tags, it can be a little bit confusing and where they're located and actually of what definitions are where. You can simply go ahead and go to the help function. It's up at the top. Grab the setup XML, and we're working under mill and router. And tags are basically what information or what we need to place in there to have Mastercam extract that data from us. For an example, if we have something that's called date long, and in date long, you'll see right over here to the right of the screen, it gives the date, month, day, and year. Let's give an example on how that looks. I do a File, Print Preview, and you can see the date comes out Monday, July 11th, 2011. I simply exit that. Now I want to make the date shorter. So what I can wind up doing is when I see the date long, I'm noticing, and I'll move this down here a little bit. That's kind of hard to keep everything in one screen so that way I can show you. But when I hit in date long, let's pull this back. Here's another thing too. If I can't grab a box, I can always put this back to the foreground. You see how this box is right through here? You can always go ahead and send that to the back. And what I mean is sometimes a little bit easier to grab your tags and text box. In this case, this is a text box. In this text box, what you'll see is I have a drawing number. And here's that date that we were talking about. And when I look at that date, we have this word right here in the data field, and it's called date long. Now I want to go ahead and extract the information from Mastercam automatically with a different date. So all I need to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this date short. Now you'll find out that I'll select over it, not putting in the parentheses, right click and do copy, because I find it's very easy for me to misplace or have a space in between, and it won't take that. So it's easy for me to copy and paste rather than remembering exactly what the tag is going to look like. Simply place that in the data field and hit paste. And I like to keep things organized, so for my text I'll tell it that I'm also going to go ahead and use that for date short and put a paste in there as well. Once I'm done with that, I can simply come over here. You'll notice that it went date short. I say File, Preview, and now my date is different. So you're getting a different look just by knowing exactly what tag to place in there. That's all part of using active reports. The same thing with time. If you look at time, and of course there's the tag that I can come down here. You'll notice that the time is report is here, and I can also put the year. So any of these things I can use right off the bat. You also have different zones. There's a stock zone, what they call in your setup sheet. These are all still going off the setup sheet. Many different things to look at. And I want to encourage you to go ahead and print this out and take a look at all the operations and all the code that you're able to place into a tag. You'll find out there's many things you can wind up placing in there, and some things get rid of. There again, customize it to your liking. But you need to know where it's at, and that's how you know is right through here. Setup, mill, print that out, and I'll give you all your tags that you need to. Now I kind of keep it handy and keep it on the screen here for a second, so that way as I'm going through some of these, I'll go ahead and add a few more options. For an example, I told you I like to copy and paste some things, and the reason for that is because I like to not try to create everything by a label or a text box and start from scratch. And these are already kind of in position and in line for me, so it's easier just to left click on something, right click and copy it, and then I can go ahead and select in the area and paste it. Now if I want to, I just move it up and you can see those purple lines. Okay, they make a nice snapshot for me and snap it right in there. I'll do it one more time. Paste, throw that up there, put it in order, and one more time again. Now what this is going to wind up doing is we did make that box that had the note 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to customize this a little bit. Copy, paste, there again, grab the snap lines where you need to, paste, snap lines where you need to, and paste. Now of course I don't want time all the way through there, but it saved me a little bit of creating. So we also have right now, we have our label box, and we also have what we call as a text box. Now in the time management right here, what I'm going to wind up putting is I can actually place this and tell it that this was going to be my x equals. So in the time right here in the text, I'll just go ahead and say x equals, and I'll put that in capitalized and leave that just like that. You'll see that I can just put that in there with x. The other thing I'm going to wind up doing is I can go ahead and put the next one into my label box, because if I left click on there, you can see that anytime that I grab this, kind of comes up in this field, tells me what type of box it is. It is a label box. In this case, I'll go ahead and tell this one it's going to be y equals. And then when I come down here to the time, I can just go ahead and put z equals in here. Kind of gives me a reference of what I'm looking for. The last thing I'll wind up doing is those tags that I told you about. This is a note that I'm going to be placing in here. So I go up to the top, and I'll find out that I have note 1, 2, and 3. And this is exactly what you've seen on your Mastercam when you did a create setup sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and get ready to get started and place it into my data. There's my time. You'll notice there's a data field. This is where your tag goes. I just simply paste it. And of course, I might even paste it down here just to kind of keep in the same format. There's note. I'll do the next one. And I'll do note 2. Because I already know that I looked at it and choose the next one, I can just simply paste it and then just put the 2 after that, and that'll take effect. Paste and 2. Last one I'll do is note 3. There we go. So since I have note 1, note 2, note 3, now when I go ahead and say File, Preview, it'll go ahead and tell me x equals, and whatever I typed in those fields is what's going to come afterwards. Now I might jazz it up just a little bit more as well. In other words, I may want to go ahead and call that out when I type in the fields a little bit more bold. So I can come over here to the note and tell it that for color that I have, I definitely want to go ahead and make sure that it's standing out a little bit. The font size that I have, I can also go ahead and tell it to make sure it's bold and select OK. So now I have a bold style. You can see how it's activated right here. And I'll do the same thing on the next one. There's my font. I'll go ahead and tell it it's bold, along with changing the color. Red. And one more for the note. Font, bold, color, red. These seem to be all that I need so far into my box. So I put a picture, I changed the title, I know what the machine type is, and there's my general information. And these also follow suit right through here of when you go ahead and use your setup sheet in Mastercam. I made my box here, which was my picture box, a little smaller. I just resized it as we did before. You can also go ahead, and since I can't click on the image and the image found, if you find it hard, there again, remember, it's because this box is on top. It's not transparent. You can simply go ahead and left click on it, which will get all this highlighted area. And you can either use a right click or just go ahead and go to the top and say send the back. Now what happens, you'll find it very easily to grab these tags that you need to. And I'll move these around, and here's an image found. Resize that image up a little bit. Place it in the middle and move this over. So just all a bunch of customization of what you want. Now if I go ahead and say File Save, I'm going to be saving this under the Mill2. So I can say File, Save As. Notice it's saving Setup Mill. There's no minus sign in front of Setup, so that's my main page. I say Save, and I'm ready to go. Now let's see what this looks like in Mastercam. When I go ahead and pull up Mastercam, I right click, do a Create Setup Sheet, pick the areas that I want. In this case, I went ahead and started from completely scratch so you guys could see, and I'll just go ahead and type some names in there. There again, Kevin, customer, ABC. And I'll just put self and drawing. And you don't have to worry about capitalization as well. Drawing number 1, 2, 3. Revision 1. Now here's my X, and I could wind up saying this happens to be center. And I'll actually put my caps lock on center of part. I'll wind up putting center of part. And I'll also put, let me if I spell that right, center, there again, of part, and top of part. Now that I have that, you'll notice I am using Mill2. If you do not have it set that way, you just hit your F2 and grab it, and I select OK. And now we should get the results that I was looking for. I will have my image, the setup sheet, the way that I wanted the style to come out. I may have a few areas in there that kind of stand out to me. Right here, I have X equals center of part. And of course, I have a misspell there as well. I didn't put a space, but Y equals center of part. And I have Z at top of part. My picture's a little bit smaller, okay, so I'm able to go ahead and streamline that through there. And now I have all my operations through here as well. And then we have our tools that are lined up. So it's kind of a nice, cleaner look of what we're looking for. I may just do another change, and I'm going to show you what a sub-report change would look like. There again, I really focus on cycle time, and I may focus on X and Z if I'm an operator, or I'm sorry, the Z of min and max. And there again, this tells me how deep each tool is going. So let's just do a little customization under a sub-report. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to pull up my active report, and let's go ahead and look at a sub-report. Now, right now what we have is we have this main style of sheet that's in there. If I want to get rid of my comments, we all know I can go ahead and do that and choose to do so just by clicking on it and getting rid of it. But keep in mind we're working under Mill2. So what I want to take a look at is I say File, Open, and I want to look for something that has Mill2 in parentheses, and you'll notice that I have a few things to look at. Now these minus signs we talked about are our sub-reports, and we can look at each sub-report of which one looks like. For an example, if I do an operation and left click on that, my operation comes up, and that's where I have my min and max being located at, my time. Okay, So this is exactly what it looked like when I had my report with my min, max, and my time. I'm going to open up another report to give you kind of a different look of what we're looking for. I also have the M2 file, which is a subreport, and I can click on that as well. Now this, you'll notice I have there again the min, max, and the cycle time, and I have a few other things in here. And I'm going to drag this down just so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to drag this down, and you'll see that I have mill2 tools. That's a subreport it's using. And it's using this report, if I can pull this down, there you go, is the operation report. So anytime that I want to go ahead and have my min and max through here, I can change by the values. So say again, for an example, if I go ahead and use the cycle time and I want to change that color, I'm going to change this one here to blue, just to give you a different contrast. There's my blue. If I hit File, Preview, you'll notice that there again it just shows the blue up at here, but not down here where we want the time actually. It's just showing up here at the main screen. So what I can do is I know that it's using the operation sub sheet right here. So if I decide to go ahead and say File, Open, and use that operation, there's my times. And if my time comes over here and it's a time short, now I can go ahead and say, well, I want to go ahead and put this one into red, and maybe I want to go ahead and make this bold. So I put this into bold. Now the difference on this one here is because since I'm using the operations subreport, it's not the header, it's actually the actual time of here. So watch the difference. Preview, now all my times are here. So that way I can itemize exactly of what I want. I'll do one more in here and put maybe all the Z levels into a different color as well. There again, I'll bold it out and put these possibly into a blue. Simply save it. File. Save as. It is saving as the operation. Select yes. So now what we have is I went ahead and put all my times in red, my maximum Z's in blue, and let's see how that looks with Mastercam. I right click. I simply go ahead and do create a setup sheet. This time you'll notice there again I still have all my fields in there and I can start adding to them. There again, overdue. I just throw something in there. Customer 123, programmer John Doe, drawing number 345, and maybe on this one here I want to go ahead and put left side of part. However you in your shop want to go ahead and abbreviate it. Hard jaw, far side, if it's a double vise. And of course I might put bottom of stock. With these all placed in there again, now when I go ahead and pull it up more, I'll be able to have more drop down boxes. Every time I fill it in and save it right down here, it'll keep adding to there. Notice I'm on the mill 2, select OK. It'll put my report up, and now I've done more to it. I've actually went ahead and did the colors, the Z's, the clearances, so picture, test, added a few things here along with some colors, smaller picture, or you can get rid of it totally if you choose to. That's a simple deletion. Here's my operations that are right here, and of course we also have my tooling list. Now the last thing we're going to wind up doing is doing some customization on the tooling. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my active reports, simply grab my active report, and let's take a look at a subreport. File, Open, and let's take a look at tools, or I should say tool. In tool, this is kind of what it looks like. And how we know that, if we set File, Preview, this is what the tools are looking like right here. So we want to go ahead and find out, what do we want to add or what do we want to get rid of? Where there again, there's my type, and that's a label. And on the type next to it is a text box, and that's that data field we talked about. So how does it know where to grab all this information? All you have to do there again is go to the help, go over the mill router, and then as you scroll down here, you'll find out that we can get any data from some tools as well. Simply click on tools. There's your tool right here, and all these options we have as you go down. Flutes, FPT, feet per tooth, all these things here you're able to place in there. Maximum X and Y, minimum X and Y. So it's a very nice way to do it. One of the things that I would change on this, if it was me, is I'd like to go ahead and I have the description of the tools, which are fine. But each time that it is, I do want to go ahead and I like to go ahead and find out how far this is going compared to, there again, a maximum depth of an NC file compared to a flute. And you can start to add those boxes in there as well. So whatever you want to change or get rid of, you're able to do that just by simply left clicking on it and hitting delete and removing it. Selecting a color if you want to choose something different. So you notice that so far I've been changing colors in it to see something a little bit easier. That's exactly what I would do here. My diameter. If I have my diameter, I want to go ahead and make sure that's clear to an operator. Simply go ahead and change that to red. Maybe change that to a bold look. And that's going to stick out. That's exactly kind of what I want to have. File, save as. Set to my sub tools. Say yes. And the last thing I'll wind up doing is doing one more. Create a setup sheet. Choosing from what I want. It's Kevin. Myself. Hey, this is going to be the top of stock. Select OK. Wait for the report to happen. And now I'm going to have that tool list that we just added a little bit more color, a little bit more bold to it. Also remember too, always back up. In case you mess something up, you can always start from wherever you left off. So there's my time, nice and red. There's my blue. And of course, if I want my tools in here, there's my diameter set 3 inches. So nice and easy to customize. Choose what you want. It's almost impossible to have one that fits all. But find out exactly what you'd like to do. It might be a good idea to start out with your operator along with your programmer. Find out what's crucial to each one of you. If you want multiple pictures, that can be done as well. So, say for an example, that if I want to do the create setup sheet, in the create setup sheet, I want to take some pictures. I take a snapshot, and there's image 1, and you can call it whatever you want. And you can actually go ahead and take a snapshot of that. And what will happen is it's going to go ahead and take an image file of a picture and tells you that it took that image. So there again, if I want to go ahead and grab something, it says image captured successfully. Well, I might want to go ahead and do a couple different images in here. I might go ahead and just say I'm going on this side of it. Maybe zoom up in this window. You notice it says image 2. I can do another capture of it. I can capture as many images as I choose to. The more images you do, though, the longer it's going to wind up taking to generate the report, to some extent. And then I'll do one more picture after that, so I'll actually have 3 of them. Sometimes it's also nice to use view sheets in this manner, because if I have view sheets, I might have some dimensions on there too that are very helpful to somebody. So I have that one. So say for an example that the last one I may have a few dimensions on there as well. Some callouts. I'm going to go to the top. I might even go ahead and hide, screen blank, an entity up here, and only use my box, and that would be image 3. Okay, so I copied a couple images. I select OK to it. I am using F2. I apply that to there. And the last thing we'll see is I customized a few images through there. Now the images can be smaller by going to the active reports and making them into one page if you choose to. So it's making the active report. So there's the first picture I took. If I come down right afterwards, this one here, you notice doesn't have any captures. Well, this setup report did not put any captures into this. So there again, that's kind of a nice idea to say, well, what does the other one look like? If I go ahead and do a setup report and I hit F2, it's going to clear it. So I'll hit F2 and let's go to that mill. Now I can go ahead and do a couple captures again, because when you change from one to the next, it will go ahead and get rid of the capture. There's a capture right here. And what I'm going to explain to you is there's differences why they have different active reports. Some have more than the others, and it's up to you to go ahead and place those in there. So there's an image successfully done. I'm going to pull this over to this side. Grab another image. It's going to take another snapshot. There you go. And I'll do one more. Now I'm trying to keep it in mind that everyone does not know the XMLs fairly well, so I want to make this kind of nice and easy for people to change. When you start a setup sheet by itself, it can be a little overwhelming if you're not familiar with all those. So let me show you how I can put that capture into my mill too. So first of all, let's see the result of what we're looking for. There we go. I accept that. I'm using the mill, and I accept that, and it's going to generate the report. Now you notice all these screen captures it's doing, and there again, that's the operation side. But I want you to focus on where it has the captures of pictures, which will be on the bottom. So I'm going to be putting that into my template mill too. So I have there again the best of both worlds. I have a short setup sheet. I don't have all that big area being placed in there. And but I do want to add some captures. So there again, here's my mill 1. In other words, I have mill and mill 2. This is my first one. You can see how much bigger that was again, and that's not what we want. But I do want to bring your attention to is it have some captures of pictures that are right here, right in here. So how can I incorporate them onto another one? Well, it's actually not as hard as it seems. So what I'll wind up doing is I'll exit out of here, and actually I'll minimize this, kind of get rid of this down on the bottom, and I'm actually going to go ahead and add 2 reports up at the same time. Now remember, this is kind of nice for people that maybe just don't do XML every day. I'm going to pull up another one. I'm going to put them side by side here. There you go. So the other thing I'll wind up doing is there's my active reports that I've been utilizing. And I want to go to the main screen. And remember I told you in the main screen I say mill 2, has no minus sign on it. There's mill right here. I want mill 2. So this is everything that I have here that I'm looking for. But over here, what I do is I know that this one here I used was just regular mill. So I'll grab this and use the regular mill. So what are the differences on? Well, the difference on is when I come down to here, and I can open these up a little bit, you'll see that I have a stock size. Okay, and that's what this means right here. And I'll pull another one up, but I'm not worried about doing anything to this because I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to show you what's happening. There's my setup report. Okay, that's up there as well. I do another one, and this is a capture. Well, that captured all those pictures in that we had, and I really want to have those pictures over here. Well, there again, you can actually just minus it. You can see this setup sheet right here, and I can actually just do a little bit of a trick of copying right over here and just doing a simple left click and pasting over here. So you don't have to remember every little thing to make that capture. Of course, we can make a sub report, and then when you make a sub report, a lot of you have to remember on exactly on what to type in. Sometimes this is a quick method to go ahead and do. So now what happened is I can say File, Save As, and I actually added captures into my mill 2. So what one had, one didn't have, it was a simple copy and paste. Now if I go ahead and do a preview, you'll see that I have my names. It's all shrunken down. I still have that. And I have my captures nice and tidy. All right, so that'd be the last that I wanted to show you. That you always go ahead and maneuver around. On our customers, I know what we wind up doing as well, and I'll just say no here because I don't want to save it, is you get the getting started. And what the getting started is, and we sent that out to the people that did the webinar with us, is you're able to go ahead, and I'll show you where that's at on ours. Everybody that had that, make sure that you can download that if you choose to through Mastercam. And you got getting started, and right here is getting started with active reports. So if you want to get more detailed of what we just did, they got plenty of samples you can look through. You can also go ahead and create by using a PDF, and it goes through all the procedures to go ahead and learn how to make more customized reports. So I hope all this helped you out. Make sure that you have a more custom and easier active reports to follow. And you just have to play with it a little bit, and you'll find out that it'll start to fill suit and be able to go ahead and get some nice detailed reports that your company would like to have. Thank you, and I hope this helped you.